I remember there was a time I had there's a friend of mine who was you know she was taking a nap, and out of I ignorantly just went to her and I said to her, I wanted to tell her something really, and I was talking to her and I called her and she just shouted, she just exploded. Like I was like, "Now, don't you ever wake me up when I'm sleeping." And I was like, why would you? I was just going to say something, just going to tell you something, and after that, anytime I see her taking a nap or sleeping, I just leave her, like, let me just leave, And I think one of the things we also need to understand, is that, whatever reaction someone, shows you at that particular time, just know that, it is not, most of the time, it is not what has happened today that brings out that reaction. Some of those things are things that, in counseling, in counseling class, when I was taking counseling class, they taught us, something called, family of origin, where the person is coming from. At times, that reaction is not a reaction based on what you did now. It's a reaction based on, where the person is coming from. So you must be able to understand this and understand it well. At times, it might be bad because the person, I'll give an example, the person might be a last born of the family. And then growing up, they've disturbed this person's sleep. Anytime this person's sleeping, they wake her up or wake him up, come and do this chores, come and do this, come and do that. So the person has that mentality of one day I will grow up, I'll be on my own, and then nobody will be able to disturb me. So that person now gets into a relationship or into maturity, into marriage or maturity, and then has that mentality of when I become my own boss, and then now you now come and disturb this person when the person is sleeping. It's like no, 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 no. You are passing your boundary. This is I'm now the chief here. You don't disturb me. So you must be able to understand where the person is coming from. That way you don't get upset by what by the reaction the person gives you at at that particular point, or and then you can just like we discussed earlier, then when you see such reactions, you're able to also bring it back to communication and say, okay, when I sleep, I don't like people disturbing me because when I wake up, I feel headache. So I like to sleep long, and then by the time I sleep, by the time I wake up, I feel refreshed. That way, you've been able to communicate yourself to the other party, and then knows that okay, if I wake this person up, and I don't want her to have headache, or I don't want him to have headache, so I'd rather leave her, to sleep, to have a good sleep, and then the other person too understand that okay, if I wake this person, uh, I don't get upset when this person does this because I know that okay, this person needs rest, and then this person is not waking me up at this point in time because he or she understands that I need rest at this point in time. So that's where you're able to manage, the anxiety, you're able to manage the stress. And then one thing also is, marriage is not, it's not about what's it called? It's not a competition. It's a partnership. So if you find that okay, this person is weak or is tired at this point in time, instead of you putting a pressure on the person, you just relax and then help the person out. It's not, task is not like, okay, this person must, she's the woman of the house. She's the one that must wash the clothes. She's the woman of the house. She's the one that must sweep the floor. She must do all the house chores. No, no, no. Well, you find that this person is tired, then you say, okay, at this point in time, I found, okay, this person is tired. Let me do this. And my husband, is the one that does this, but at this point in time, I feel that, he's stressed. Let me help him out with this or with that. So that way, you are able to help each other, manage anxiety and stress because you are supposed to balance each other. You're supposed to help each other. You are helpmates to each other. So that is you're able to help the person, manage his stress. You're also able to help the other person manage, our stress, and that way things become balanced and flows easily between both parties.
Okay, so what you just said reminded me of a movie that I watched. I don't know if we're digressing or maybe we can actually put it in this context. All right, in that movie, there is this lady who happens to get a job, and I think she's making more money than her husband. And then, so she was a very submissive kind of woman before she started working. And then she realized, and she had bad friends, so people that were influencing her. So she decided to tell them, oh, we're doing that. Her husband now should be doing some chores, right? And at some point, again, the guy had to cook, even though she cooks. But it's just that instead of her saying, let's help one another, support one another, she's making it look like, come, I make more than you, right? So you got to do all these things. So then one day, I think one of the house, there's a plumbing problem in the house. So this lady went to meet her husband. Something is wrong with the bathroom stuff. The guy said, so why are you telling me? She was like, are you not the man of the house? I said, oh, no, you are the man of the house. So why not go and do it yourself? Since I have to clean, I have to cook, I have to do all of those things that naturally you should do, but I should help out with. But you insisted that I should do it. So you told me, so why not just go over to do that since since we are both doing each other's chores. That's just a lesson anyways. It's just a way of it's just wisdom. Now, which brings me to the point that when you were talking about having to be able to communicate right and, reflect on some things. Now, and I'm sure from that feedback also comes with it. Like you mentioned about the story you said, somebody, snapped because you woke him or her up, and then it has to be traced back to maybe something that has been happening from the past. Now, looking at that, what would you say is the role of feedback, self reflection, mindfulness, and active listening when it comes to that? Because again, like I tell people, I might be telling you A, but you're hearing B. You understand? I'm telling you A, but you're hearing B. So, how would you explain that in a quick one? We're almost rounding up.
Okay. Feedback is very, 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 very key, in relationship, in marriage, because you want to get a feedback. I want you to know how I feel, because you're entering into marriage is a forever agreement. And like I tell people, marriage is about being intentional. You have to be intentional about it. There's nothing like, I feel, or you just have to make up your mind, this is what I'm doing. So you must be able to, I go back to communicate. You must be able to communicate. You must be able to, tell the other party, you know this is how I feel when you say this. For instance, the movie you just the instance you shared from the movie, you know, the man, there should be. I feel one of the gaps is, they there was no feedback, and when you don't have a feedback, things start piling up. You know, things start piling up, and the day a day will come, when the container will get filled up, and then everything will now start, spill off. But before it gets to that, there should be, a feedback, and say to your spouse, I feel that, and you don't have to um, come out and say, and shout and say, you should be able to communicate in a way that look and say, okay, I'm sorry I said this. I should have said this instead. For instance, someone says, why are you always doing this? Why are you always, saying that? You don't love me. You're always doing this. You don't love me. Instead of you saying you don't love me or things like that. You should be able to say, okay, I feel hurt. For instance, I feel hurt when you don't pick my calls. It's a feedback. It's you saying the other person, this is how I feel when you do this. And you said, feedback, please come again.
Active listening, self-reflection.
Yes, yes, very key, very key. Self-reflection is that you must be able to self-reflect. You must be able to self-reflect and tell yourself, okay, wow, I did this at this point in time. I said this. I shouldn't have said this. For instance, probably your spouse, you shouted at him or you shouted at her. You must be able to go back and you say, oh, I shouted at this person at this time. I shouldn't have reacted this way. And then you must be able to go back and say, oh, I'm sorry I shouted at you at this point in time. I don't mean to. For instance, the scenario I gave us, when I had to go to this person and wake her up, and then she was upset. And after which, you're able to come back and say, okay, say to me, this is the reason why I shouted at you, was because if you wake me up at this time, I have headache. And so I needed time to be able to sleep. And so because, I got that feedback from her, and so that way, next time I see her sleeping, I just don't even go to her. So there must be, you must be able to get, feedback, and then you must self-reflect. You must be able to tell yourself, okay, I've done this. How do I make amend? How do I make amend? You must reflect, because you are not, at times, not at times, most of the time, we are not 100% correct with our decisions or the things that we do. So that's basically. Is there something else?
Okay.
I think I missed
Yeah,
something.
the last one is mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Okay, yes, you must, be mindful of the things of your decisions and the things that you do, basically, because you also must also, just like you have said earlier, you must understand that both of you are different. I'm a man, she's a woman, and then you're a woman, she's a man. There are certain things that you should not, you know, take as your task. I remember I used to, I have a friend, and I used to tease her then, we're tough, we're so close. And then she used to, she does almost everything, almost everything. She will climb up, want to change bulb. She would want to fix electrical things. And I understand it because, in her house, she's the only girl. And so she has brothers. And so, they've trained her to work like a man. So she works like a man. So most of the time when she does that, I will tease her and say, calm down. Yeah, lady. Let me, the man, let me do this for you instead. So you must be mindful of those things. And, because we are friends, I'm able to tease her, and tell her this. So at times she wants to do things and she say, oh, that's true, I'm a lady, you are here. Just help me out. So you must be mindful of the things, and these are little things, causes conflicts in relationships and in marriages, because the man feels, you're already becoming a man. You're already taking my place. You're already doing things that I'm supposed to do. And so the man feels intimidated, like, oh, you're already, you're not regarding me as a man. And then it's also, either way, for instance, there are some people that maybe in your house as a man, you are you're surrounded by women. You make food. You can make, pot of soup. You're the one that cook. And then you now marry a woman that in their house is the only women that cook. What the men does is that they just sit down, cross their leg, and then they eat. And so by the time you go into the kitchen, she's like, "Oh, what's this man doing? Is this a man? Did I marry a man or a chef?" So there's this confusion. That so you must be able to, think deep and say to yourself, "Okay, hope I'm not, going beyond my task in quote as a
Right.
man, or responsibility as a man or as a woman." So you must be able to, both of you must be able to understand each other, and be able to communicate that. That's okay. This is your task. This is my task. I don't, yes. There are times when we need to balance, the task and say, I mean, There's nothing that is like, okay, this is this person's task. I mean, the difference, the only thing that I know that is this person's task or difference is that, okay, a woman gives birth, then the man cannot give birth. That's our own task. That. But any other thing like chores, you can alternate. You can help each other to
Okay.
get all these things done.
All right. So talking about balancing, how then can individuals balance their emotional needs with that of their partners?
To balance, for us to balance, our emotional needs, first thing is, nobody's coming to help you. You are the one that will help yourself. Just like they say. So for us to be able to, balance our, emotional needs, just I like to go back to, what I said. You must be able to, first of all, you must recognize that your emotions. You must recognize it. And one thing is, in recognizing it, you must understand that some of those things, just let me give you, some of those things are not things that happen, like I said earlier. They don't happen now. Check yourself, self-reflect. Some of those things, you will find out that you are reacting to these things not because of what this person is. It's probably because your parents used to treat you somehow when you were growing up, because your siblings treat you somehow when you were growing up, and then you have grown up to react this way. So that way, once you are able to understand this, and then to recognize this, then you are able to, that now brings you to the path, of how you are, to how you are able to manage it. And one of the ways you can manage it is, is pray. Pray to God. Really, because it's not easy for you to manage these things like like today, because things that has come a long way. So first thing, you pray, recognize it, understand it, and then know how to, come out of it. I can't tell you how to. You just have to be able to understand it.
All right, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll indeed appreciate you. It's wonderful to know that you, well, it's nice having you actually. Well, until you out there, until next time when I come your way again, please ensure that you be your best self. Ensure that you're mindful of one another's, emotions, and learn to balance your emotions with absolute emotional intelligence. Until next time, once again, do have a great day. Bye for now.